This Godskin Duo fight was the worst 9 minutes of my life since freshman year. This weapon buff is a lot like myself during freshman year, in that it works best in moist areas. Much like freshman year, this area is very isolated and everything there is hostile. In Elden Ring, much like freshman year, many things will inexplicably run away from you. I honestly feel like pumping Vigor all the way to 60 and wearing heavy armor would make this build, unlike my freshman year, way too easy. You can do more damage to enemies with this Cinder Block than Fireball did to my intestines freshman year. After this, you can push your Vigor to 60, but I stayed at 40 for the rest of the run myself. Otherwise, increase your intelligence stat faster than I increased my student loan debt freshman year. With all that out of the way, much like my freshman year, this video is over. Now that was close. That was the closest scare I've had since freshman year. Then we could finish Ranni's questline and enter into a stable relationship. Unlike freshman year. I'm not going to mention names, but much like everything that happened freshman year, these projectiles will follow you no matter how far you run or where you hide. Your electrified Great Axe will destroy bosses harder than that Chem 102 exam destroyed my GPA freshman year. Saying a weapon is a below average katana is like saying a cookie is a below average insomnia cookie. For those of you who do not know what insomnia cookie is, these are these really fresh baked cookies you can get in all hours of the night in Philly. And way back in freshman year, my friends and I would walk to the food truck that had them at 34th and Market Street and have far too many calories way too late in the night. Good times. It brings me back to, of course you guessed it, freshman year when all my classes were really easy starting out. I was perfectly fine with coasting through all my classes because it was so darn easy. But when a mandatory yet difficult class came along, I didn't have the necessary skills to learn how to study and learn all that new material. It was a bit of a skill issue, if you will, and my grade reflected that. Now, contrast that with senior year, where I went out of my way to take a difficult fluid dynamics class. When the more difficult path was my decision, I was more prepared for all the obstacles that would be in my way, and I aced that class, despite it being one of the most difficult electives you could take. And I know I'm much better off taking that class instead of coasting through the end of school. Keen gives more dex scaling, Lightning adds lightning damage, Sacred adds holy damage, and none of them add the emotional damage that I received freshman year. These attacks will do the most poise damage by far, and hit harder than those student housing prices freshman year. The fact they got away with charging me so much for living in Philly was straight up robbery. The hardest boss and the final boss in the game are weak to the damage this build puts out, and the Peeler moveset is great in any situation, as long as that situation is not freshman year. While this was one of the sloppiest Malenia fights I've had in a while, I was still able to take her down first try in less than 3 minutes per phase. In fact, it was sloppier than... Actually, let's save the freshman year joke for a more appropriate part, because my family watches these sometimes. This all fits in just perfectly. Just like how Civilization 5 fit perfectly on my computer, the computer I was supposed to be using for schoolwork freshman year. Coding in MATLAB was just not as fun as playing Civ. Run 60 dexterity, slap on Stormcaller with the lightning affinity, and become that raging thunderstorm that caught me by surprise freshman year after my chem lecture. Oh my god! Because that's pretty cool. Cool, unlike my physics lecture freshman year, which would drag on for well over 90 minutes in a massive, unair-conditioned auditorium. Loved that. Choosing a staff is like me choosing which fast food place to buy from freshman year, because you know I wasn't cooking. Much like my freshman year physics exam, we can grab this weapon really, really early. The unchangeable Ash of War, Nebula, has a deceptively long range, much like that long-distance relationship I had freshman year. If there's one thing I learned freshman year, it's that experimentation is key. Heavy infusion, along with boosting our strength scaling, goes well with grease, much like freshman year. Unlike that crazy woman from freshman year, I hope you stick around and subscribe for more. It wasn't until his freshman year of college that he would finally come up with a channel name that he liked. Much like all that crap I did freshman year, this Ash can follow you pretty far. Carium Piercer on this build was like Fireball to my freshman year. It's not necessary, but it makes the experience a bit more fun. This is honestly the most sleep I've seen since freshman year when I screwed up my sleep schedule, beyond repair by playing Civilization 5 and studying far too late into the night. Also, pro tip, studying in the morning while being well rested is infinitely better than depriving yourself of sleep. That's a fact I wish I learned much, much earlier in my college career. If you like both the transformed and untransformed modes, you can use physical attack gems. But if you greatly prefer the transformed mode, you can use thrust attack gems. Both our weapons make for great AR, great versatility, and, much like my freshman year, a great time smashing everything you come across. A katana without bleed is like an exam day my freshman year without an energy drink. It just doesn't feel right. This gives us a great combo of poison and bleed to send enemy health bars down faster than my entire dorm when we had to go down the fire escape stairs back during freshman year after a fire scare. Turns out some genius thought it was a-okay to cook a container made of plastic in a blazing hot oven. How did you possibly make it to age 19 and to college without knowing that this was now, much like a reference to freshman year, every Jersey Side video needs a build guide. And more Remnant too, because just like that woman I dated freshman year, I'm sure I'll be coming back to this game again and again and again and again. It took me over 1,000 hours to use a scythe in Elden Ring, and this is the worst mistake I made since freshman year, and no, I absolutely will not be supplying the context to that statement. However, even 2 years after the release of this game, the Sword of Night and Flame slaps hard, much like how that Chem 102 exam slapped my GPA freshman year. Now, I knew that Lion's Claw hit harder than my housing bill freshman year, but when your character does it, they just kinda yell. Regal Beast Claw is an insanely powerful Ash of War. This move messes up enemies harder than Fireball messed up my gastrointestinal system freshman year.